Trump's efforts to delay his sentencing in what's come to be known as the hush money case appears to have been in vain. On Thursday, the New York Court of Appeals rejected Trump's request to delay, so his sentencing is expected to go forward on Friday as planned. Judge Juan Merchan will sentence Trump for 34 felony convictions surrounding the falsified business records case from last May. The president-elect tried to have the sentencing delayed by claiming presidential immunity, but since he hasn't been sworn in as yet, he doesn't have that. However, the judge has said that he is likely to sentence Trump to an unconditional discharge because the reality is that Trump will not be serving any prison time considering he will be the president of our country as of January 20th. This means that while Trump would have faced up to 4 years in prison for committed crimes, he will avoid prison, fines, and probation. Merchant says that the ruling will be the most viable solution to ensure finality and allow a defendant to pursue his appellate options. If for some reason the sentencing does not go forward tomorrow as planned, the judge will have to wait until after Trump completes his term as president to sentence him. This ruling has already been delayed for months. It was originally supposed to happen before the November election, but Trump successfully got it pushed back until now. Trump is expected to attend the sentencing virtually, but he's obviously not happy about any of it. And he went to great lengths to stop it from happening. He even tried to call in a favor with Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito to prevent the sentencing from happening. On Tuesday, the two spoke on the phone.
This is almost unheard of, Wolf, for an incoming president, but what we are learning and what CNN has just confirmed is that President-elect Trump did speak with Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito in recent days, and we are getting a statement from Justice Alito himself saying that it was at the recommendation of a former law clerk of his who wanted him to call the president-elect on his behalf and recommend him for a job in the Trump administration, in his government. Now, it is not unusual for Supreme Court justices to call and make recommendations on behalf of their former clerks. That's why half of them go and clerk in the first place, so it can help them, of course, with job placement. But what makes all of this so unusual, Wolf, is, of course, that call came one day before Trump's legal team filed that emergency appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court to try to delay his sentencing that is scheduled in the New York Manhattan hush money case this Friday. So far, his appeals there have been unsuccessful, Wolf.
According to Alito, they spoke because Alito wanted to recommend a former law clerk for a position in the Trump administration. However, just hours after the call, Trump's legal team filed an emergency request to block his Friday sentencing. Alito denies that the sentencing even came up on the phone call. He said, "We did not discuss the emergency application he filed today, and indeed, I was not even aware at the time of our conversation that such an application would be filed. We also did not discuss any other matter that is pending or might in the future come before the Supreme Court or any past Supreme Court decisions involving the president-elect." Quid pro quo, maybe, perhaps, but who cares? Quid pro quo has become a common thing that we've seen with several of the currently serving Supreme Court justices, but it's also become a thing that nothing ever gets done about.
Quid pro quo is Latin for bribery.
Also, Trump's sentencing will feel somewhat good, and it is important that it goes forward in order to maintain whatever remains of the integrity of our justice system. But it appears that little to no consequences will be felt by the convicted criminal for the crimes he committed. He really needed that presidency to get him out of some trouble. What an amazing length to go to just to avoid some jail time. Meanwhile, Trump has got his plate full. He attended Jimmy Carter's funeral yesterday, even though he's mad that the flags will still be at half-mast for his inauguration. He's threatening to use military force to take over the Panama Canal and Greenland, most likely because Elon Musk wants to control those territories. And he wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which is stupid for several reasons, none of which seem to be obvious to his supporters.
We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
But I hesitate to talk about any of that because we've been here before. I don't know about the rest of this country, but I certainly remember how utterly disorienting Trump's first term as president was. I remember the whirlwind of nonsensical tweets. I remember the petty fights with world leaders. I remember how exhausting it was to wake up every morning dreading to read what insane thing he said or did the night before. I remember the spin. I remember the incessant news coverage, the dissections of his sophomoric language, the speculations over what his real motives and intentions actually are. I remember people in the news and media speaking about him as if he was a serious person for years longer than they should have, only for them to be surprised time and time again when he would prove himself to be entirely unserious. And on networks like this one, it's tough. We have to cover him and others like him because he is politically and culturally relevant. He is literally the president-elect. But that's also what him and others like him count on. They want to dominate the headlines, or rather they want to overtake the headlines with nonsense so that, one, the people become so disoriented, overwhelmed, and confused that they eventually just tune everything out and stop paying attention. And two, so that real news that would actually matter to people gets kicked over to the sidelines. Case in point, we're supposed to be keeping an eye on California right now. We're supposed to be concerned for the people and the animals living out there, for the land, and yes, for the property. We're supposed to be looking for ways that we in other parts of the country can help them. Instead, we're talking about how Don Jr. and now others are blaming all of this on DEI and wokeness. We're talking about how Trump doesn't want to give aid to California for wildfire relief once he's president because he doesn't like Gavin Newsom. We're talking about what he called Gavin Newsom, and I won't repeat it because I feel childish doing so. There is always room to criticize your elected officials, and we should criticize our elected officials. If the LA mayor chose to prioritize the policing budget over the firefighting budget in a city that is especially prone to wildfires, then that is more than worthy of criticism. But if the criticism is not constructive, especially during a time when lives and land are actively being destroyed, especially when that unhelpful criticism is coming from people who are supposed to be helping, then what are we even doing? All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.